welcome back. Let's play Final Fantasy VI. Last time, we saw a nice reunion with the Figaro brothers. This time, I've come back here with this party. Now, oddly enough, I was doing additional research about enemy weaknesses upcoming. You probably want to bring Edgar upcoming. I'm bringing Gaw for a couple of specific situations, but if you don't want to bring Gaw, or you didn't train him up, or whatever, or you just want easy, definitely bring Edgar. Speaking of which, when Edgar was in our party, there were two NPCs here and here. They have disappeared. I don't know why they disappeared. This guy over here has a mistranslated line about somebody, or saying that Kefka was in the area, but it was supposed to be something more of the lines, we saw Kefka and the army approaching Narsh. This guy here says something about seeing Terra screaming across the sky, which I believe was the SNES translation, where I think it was retranslated as soaring, but considering... Maybe I did talk to him already. I have a feeling I've talked to them, but anyway, I remember, I think the Game Boy Advance translation said something about it soaring and being that a more accurate translation, but considering her screaming before, it just kind of makes sense. Anyway, there was a couple of lines of dialogue that I wanted to grab before we move on. The Empire is no longer our ally, as I'm sure you all pretty much guessed by now. The other line is up here. So let's go and talk to somebody else over here real quick. I'm not sure if this requires Sabin in the party, though I would guess it does. Every bit's an adult now. Remember that time so vividly. I was so angry. Now, this, of course, is translated wrong if you remember the previous episode where it wasn't her that was angry, it was Sabin. Remember the time, the time you really let me have it. I think you taught me something very important that day. That's, of course, the Game Boy Advance translation, being the more accurate translation generally, really encompasses what she was trying to get across a lot better. But anyway, now that we've done that, let's take the fast way to jump back up so that we can go over here, and the only guy we haven't talked to recently. A lot of requests this month. If it's your wish, I'll take you beyond the mountains. Go to Culligan, which is, I'm guessing, how you pronounce that. And the castle submerges. Even if the castle could submerge, which I doubt, how is it moving through the sand? Well, we're now in a completely different area. Are those guys back yet? No. Okay, well, whatever. We can leave that be. Now, I said that I wanted to bring Locke and Celeste for sure. There's two reasons for that. One, a cutscene in the upcoming town, and that town is just north of us. Two, is they're my lowest level characters, and I would really like to work on them. Here we have some new enemies that are all going to die the same way all the other ones do, to Marshall. We can steal from them if we want. They have nothing of value. As you can see, with the flail equipped, we cannot use the runic command, but that's not particularly important at this point, because we have Wind Slash. So yeah, Vulture and Red Fang. Red Fang is not weak to, but uses poison elemental attacks. The Vulture is weak to wind, also uses blind that we still don't care about. So there's that. Anyway, let's go to Culligan. Everyone was scared when the glowing creature stopped here. It left to the south toward Jador. Shining creature, so frightening to all, but I found it beautiful. Was it really a ghost? It stopped right in front of me. see it had gentle eyes. Now, this translation is incorrect. Was the thing really a monster? It stopped right in front of my little girl, not me. And I could see that it had gentle eyes. This seems like a very minor note to get wrong in translation, but it actually has significance later on, and I'll try to remember to bring that up later on if I remember to do so. Hey, is that you, Locke? You stopped to see Rachel's house. Interesting. Oh? Came to my house, a monster of light. Looked somehow human. Your house, which is now destroyed. Sorry about that. My brother's a bit touched. Or, more accurately, he's a bit eccentric. Lives alone up north, says he's going to build a coliseum, or some such nonsense. Now, you'll notice the spelling of coliseum is different between the two translations. The Fan and the Game Boy Advance translation both use one spelling. The Super Nintendo version uses the... I believe that's how you spell it in the case of like the Roman Colosseum, like a capitalized Colosseum. So there's that. I don't think that has any bearing on anything, but interestingly enough, something about a Colosseum. I already talked to you. Before we do anything, move out of the way, you idiots! God damn it. I know that theme. Yay! Look who it is! It's Shadow! We meet again. Leave me alone. I was about to say, do I have anyone from that party? But I guess I have 2 from that party. So, or well, 1 that he knew. Gaw ended up there later. Stay away from that guy. He's an assassin. Even though you didn't spell assassin correctly. There are 4 S's in that word, not 3. But okay. Pretty bad sorts come in here. That guy is an assassin. You misspelled that twice. Okay. You insist. No. Now, the interesting thing is, if you choose to bring only 3 party members, you can recruit Shadow here. He can be recruited for 3,000 GP up front, and he still has the same innate 1/16th chance of leaving at the end of a battle, through the entire section. He's not particularly reliable or valuable upcoming here, so there's no real good reason to pick him up, but that's entirely up to you. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can if you want to. Girl named Rachel used to live in that house. Now it's deserted. Well, before we go and deal with that, here's the general store that has lots of stuff. Do we need to buy anything? Actually, I don't think there's anything on my shopping list, but you can buy more shurikens. You can buy skeins and edges here. Now it's moved away from the shadow edge. Interestingly enough, I was looking at translations of the shadow edge and the Invit's edge, and what the shadow one basically translates as shadow clone, and the invisible edge is hidden in the leaves. Thank you, Naruto reference. The bolt edge, the water edge, and the fire skein are all elemental scrolls, basically from the previous Final Fantasy V. They hit all enemies and can be thrown with throw command by using shadow. They are pretty valuable and a little too expensive to buy in quantities at this point, but the option's there if you do decide to pick him up. Anything new? Oh yeah, there is something new, the headband. The headband is expensive and worse than the Green Beret, as are pretty much every helmet, save for maybe one for the next little while, so just don't worry about that at all. We don't need any of that stuff. We already bought that when we had our discount. What else do I need to do? Let's stay away from the house on the eastern edge of town. The old coot there spends his days mixing curious herbs. One thing I was looking at is apparently the translation here in the Game Boy Advance version is actually incorrect for once. Apparently, like, it's translated this as smelly herbs, but apparently it was mistranslated somewhere along the line and they only got part of the word, and part of the word meant smelly, but if the whole word together meant kind of mysterious or unnerving or something like that, and so that's why they mistranslated that. Keeps ghosts under his house. Well, that's frightening. Anyway, I think we've had enough dilly-dallying. I talked about leitmotif, I believe, in the previous episode with the brothers. There's another example of that here. Wasn't able to save her when she needed me. This is Forever Rachel, one of my favorite songs from this entire game, and one that still gives me goosebumps most of the times I listen to it, including right now. It's a leitmotif on, or a variation on Locke's theme. It's a lot more somber. A lot more kind of music box-like, in a way. And it contrasts starkly with Locke's very upbeat, adventurous theme. You're not gonna believe what waits us up there. Come on, it's worth a fortune. Oh, so they both survived. Unfortunately, amnesia seems to be a rather common trend in this world. It's your fault she's lost her memory. Now, here's an unfortunate mistranslation. She said yes, we were going to, obviously implying that they were going to get married. That wasn't in the original script, and the Game Boy Advance has fixed this with, wait, just let me talk to her. However, what this does is it solidifies the relationship between Rachel and Locke, which was only implied up until now. And, well, I'll let the scene play out and then I'll make a kind of a relation in terms of what this is compared to a scene we've already seen in the game. Best leave her alone. She's gonna have to make a new start of it. Your being here doesn't help. In this case, it's not gonna help her, considering she doesn't remember, and it's not gonna help him either. A year passed. When I returned, I learned that Rachel had perished in an Imperial attack. This goes back to when Locke said in the Returner's hideout that he lost someone important to him due to the Empire. This was the person he was talking about. I can't remember if there was another line from somebody else, talking about whether it was a romantic relationship that he had lost or not. But it seems that that was indeed the case. Her memory returned just before she passed away. The last thing she uttered was my name. That is heartbreaking. It's a 16-bit sprite, but that is absolutely heartbreaking. And the reason why it works so well is the music. Music is absolutely very important to a lot of Super Nintendo games to get across emotion. And that's probably why I gravitated toward them so much, because music is a very important aspect to storytelling for me. In addition to having lost Rachel, she had lost her memory. If you remember back to when we first met Tara and Locke was talking to her, you have amnesia? I'm not going to abandon someone just because they have amnesia. The connections that you'll be able to make in this game after playing it a second time are a lot more... What's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot more connections to be made flat out the second time you play than the first time. Hello. If you kind of look behind this thing here, there's the outline of something back there. Is that you, Locke? It's been a while. Worry not, your treasure's quite safe. I used some herbs to put her into suspended animation. She won't age a day. We get kind of a little more emotion out of the Game Boy Advance translation, where it says he used his herbs and couldn't very well refuse you with you begging like that. Now, here you'll see they've kind of changed how this worked from translation to translation. In the SNES, those herbs actually have saved her, as in they've already saved her. Meanwhile, the meaning I believe they were trying to get across is portrayed in the Game Boy Advance translation when they say, "You're sure this will even work? The love of your life will sleep here like this forever." And yeah, the Game Boy Advance adds some extra lines to try and, make this crazy old guy who plays around with medicines and herbs and stuff to, seem a little more wacky. Though it's not really necessary. What if there were some way to call her back? If you could call her back, she'd come back. Now, this is a terrible translation for what they were actually going for. A way to call her back, eh? You mean like the legendary treasure? Oh yes, I suppose if you had that, you might even be able to bring her around. Now, the translation we get portrays the same meaning, generally, but the Game Boy Advance translation is far more accurate, and we'll find out more about what's going on with that a little later on. But yeah, the SNES loses a lot of meaning here that will only be noticeable once we progress with the plot a little more. bringing Celeste along gives you one line. But the thing is, that one line is basically Celeste being able to understand why Locke feels the need to rescue, like he did with her back in South Figaro. And the realization of who Locke is and what he fights for and why he fights the way he does against the Empire, that realization, and I said this before, we really do have to read between the lines in order to get a lot of the meaning out of this game. It's only really apparent by giving us that one line and her basically having to think about it and acknowledge it. Without that, there's no reason to even think that at all. Yeah, that's one of the things this game does really, really well. Also hidden entrance here, and another green beret. We have more than enough of those now. Yeah, there's only 2 items in this city, the elixir and the clock, and the green beret there. Anyway, yeah, that's the primary reason to bring both Celeste and Locke is for that scene. If you don't bring Locke, you don't get that scene. I'm going to continue to bring Locke further on because there's a lot we can do with Locke and his steel command going forward. I also want to fight the one dude out here. I will save just in case bad things happen, but Fossil Fang. Revivify. That should tell you something. The Fossil Fang is weak to fire, ice, pearl, and water, and absorbs poison. So let's see here. I think you were Bolt, which means Templar was fire, right? Where's the Templar? Or were you weak to Bolt too? No. Where I am blind. He was right there. Okay. So there we go. So there's that. Or Bolt, as it sounds, is Holy Elemental. As you can see, this guy does a lot of damage, so we need to end him quickly. Luckily, a couple of attacks like this is pretty much all we need to do so. But be careful, because he's kind of dangerous. He gives a bunch of money in case you care otherwise. There we go. Get some healing in. And now we're going to head up north. You can see there's a single dot up there. And fight more of these guys. Basically, what I do is I have Locke steal generally along our trek, use Marshall, and Bolt. They have this Shim Sham attack, which is gravity-based. Cuts your HP in half, I believe. There we go. Enough to finish him off. Alright, I'm going to heal Locke up a little more. The difficulty hasn't really gone up yet, but it will by the time we get to our next dungeon. So yeah, we want to go all the way up here. There's a lone little house. Someone had said his brother lived up north. Can't let the world become too peaceful. People are at their best when they're at war. Okay, my Colosseum will be a monument to war. I can never get the help I need to finish it, that is. Well, that's a thing. More important than that, Hero Ring, one of the best accessories in the entire game. The Hero Ring is a pair of earrings and an Atlas armlet all rolled into one. Hero rings can be stacked with earrings. They cannot be stacked with other Atlas armlets. For some reason, they have nerfed physical attack power, and you can't boost it twice with the same effect, basically. Atlas armlet and earrings are basically both built right into the hero ring. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give the hero ring to Ga, and unless I need them, I can give the other pair of earrings. Where'd they go? Or, no, it was an Atlas armlet. I don't really need the Atlas armlet, anyone. So, yeah, whatever. That should be fine. But anyway, now that we've got that, if you go up here, we run into some enemies in the forest. 2 new ones, Iron Fist and Mind Candy. Marshall. Hadouken. Alright, Mind Candy are weak to fire and wind, and they can use sleep elemental attacks. Or, well, they can inflict sleep. Iron Fist absorbs poison and can use the stone ability that the Brawler Rage for Gaw has. Now, the worry with that is it does 8 times damage if you happen to be the same level as the caster. The caster in this case is level 15. It hits all allies, sometimes. So be very careful. Because if it does 8 times its normal damage, and its normal damage is decent, I've seen reports written in other walkthroughs of it going up to over 1,300 damage on a single target, which is bad. It's very bad, so be careful. In here is a chocobo stable. So I figured I'd come here and steal a chocobo so that we can get to the next city rather quickly, because we've seen all the new enemies. The Red Fang and the Vulture are on the field. There's one new one that we haven't seen in the forest yet, and then we already saw the Fossil Fang in the desert, and he's pretty much the only enemy in the desert. And it gives us a chance to listen to Chocobo theme. It's not one of my favorite renditions of the Chocobo theme. By the way, if you look over here, it stalls out pretty quickly. There's a forest and just a wall. There's nothing else we can do to visit the rest of the continent beyond the mountains here. So basically all we can do is go south at this point. Everything else is pretty well blocked off. You can just kind of see from the little exploration we can do here. There's not a whole lot that we can do. Anyway, let's get to the next city. And at the next city, we could explore that whole thing, but I think we've already gone long enough. And I would like to devote the proper amount of time to each of these cities. Not that there's a lot to be done here. There's also something right here that I will show off real quick before we call it a day. There is a building down here. And this building is the Opera House. The Opera House is closed. Okay. I guess we can't do anything. Anyway, that's pretty much all the time we have for today. So next time, we are going to explore. I'm going to fight one battle, and hopefully I get the new enemy. There it is, Overgrunk. It looks like Trillium. Overgrunk is weak to fire, uses poison, as you might expect. Gaw can kill it if he gets lucky enough to use his proper attack. And if not, then nothing happens. A potion. Yeah, he can inflict, I think he has the same Bane Touch ability that Trillium had before. Inflicts poison, nothing particularly special about that. But yeah, there's the last of the new enemies on the trip, and here's the next new town. So like I said, that's all for this one, and I'll see you guys next time.